Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel and welcome back to the pole barn project. So today's video is just going to be kind of a short update. I think the last video I did on the pole barn project was talking about my wall girts and my insulation, and then talking about possibilities and options for closing in the walls and the ceiling. Well, I've gone ahead and done that, so I wanted to show you how things turned out. I ended up using 7/16 OSB on the walls, primarily because I wanted something strong that I could use to hang things from, like shelves and hooks and different types of storage. And I was also looking for something that was not going to be too expensive, and this was right around $15 a sheet. My preferred option before I went for the OSB was going to be 11/32 sanded plywood, which was going to be about double the cost. But when I went to buy that, the sheets were just not really flat. The quality wasn't as good as I remember from sanded plywood. In fact, there were, sanded plywood just means it's smooth, but it still had defects. It still had patches in it from the factory. And when I was looking at that, I just got thinking to myself, why am I going to pay double per sheet for something that's still not going to look perfect, that I probably will really need to paint if I want it to look uniform? And so I went back to the other option of the OSB for half the price. Probably long term I will paint this, but I gotta be honest, I'm really liking the look of just the raw OSB up on the walls. It's kind of got a warm, artsy look to it, and so I may leave this as is. Permanently, we'll see. Certainly for the short term, it's going to stay unpainted because I just don't have time to get into paint. And so I've got that up. I got some really nice tight vertical joints. I was planning to come back and put up battens on all the vertical joints, but I've got such nice and tight joints here, I'm not real concerned about that either. What I will do though is on these tall walls where I have the horizontal joint, there I was making saw cuts, and those are never going to look perfect. So I'm going to put a piece of band board going around these taller walls just to cover up that horizontal joint that's 8 feet up. But otherwise, that came out great. I was really surprisingly able to make nice, precise cuts to work around, brackets and HVAC unit and windows and things like that. So it came out looking really, really neat, really crisp, and so that worked out well. And then on the ceiling, I ended up using 1/4-inch Luan plywood, and I think Luan's an old trade name, probably from the 60s. This is a newer product. It's called Revolution Ply. Apparently, unbeknownst to me, Luan came from an exotic hardwood in the rainforest and was bad for the planet. This Revolution Ply uses a more sustainable type of wood, and so I guess it's better for everybody. That was $27 a sheet. I mainly went with that product because of the lightweight, because I really just didn't want to hang a lot of weight off of the ceilings. Over there in the lean-to edition, I just had the roof rafters I was attaching to. Over here I had a frame and a drop ceiling. I just used 2x6s, really kind of the minimum lumber to go across the 12-foot span without sagging. And I just didn't want to add a lot of weight up on that ceiling, whether it was going to be drywall or something like the OSB. OSB would have worked fine, would have cost me less, but I just was trying to minimize weight. So that 1/4-inch Luan plywood is very lightweight, nice quality finish, looks really good. It has 2 sides. One is an appearance side, so I have that facing down. And I went back and put basically battens on all the joints of that plywood. And I did get nice tight joints up there, so I didn't really need the battens, but these are 1/4-inch panels. They're attached up to my framing with a bunch of panel staples. I was doing those every 8 inches. And then I've got 24-inch span between my framing up here and then the rafters over there. with insulation on top. I think over time that might have wanted to cause the edges of that plywood to sag down. And so I put up those battens. That's all scrap from the exterior siding. And then I used the same scrap from the exterior siding to frame around the top of the wall and to box in my beams over here. And this project started as a timber frame carport. There's actually a really nice rough sawn 4x8 Southern Yellow Pine beam up in there that you really can't see anymore because it's up in the ceiling now. And then I had attached some 2x10s on the other side of that to hang my rafters for the addition. And once I got the ceiling closed in, I was looking at it thinking, I really missed having the visual of a beam there, and I don't like seeing just plain framing lumber. So I ended up taking more of that pine siding material and boxing in the framing to make it look like a beam and really to neaten things up, cover any exposed edges and exposed insulation I had up there. And so that came out looking real nice. If this was a house, I would 100% come back with a light gray stain and stain all that boxed in pine so that it matches these weathered posts, which has been out in the weather for 3 or 4 years when this was a carport. But this is a garage, so I'm not going to worry too much about appearance. But I think that would be the thing to do if you were really going for looks. If you could stain that with a light gray stain and match this weathered wood, man, that would look really sharp. So I'm in real good shape now with the interior of the structure. I feel like I'm starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel. In fact, speaking of light, this was just this morning I came in and put the rest of my shop lights in. Those are 4-foot LED fixtures. I really couldn't get those in until I had finished all the trim and the battens up on the ceiling. And it's too bad because over the last 3 or 4 weeks, it's been a struggle to see what I'm doing in here. I have a couple halogen spotlights I'll set up for work, and then I put in 2 of these LEDs as soon as I possibly could once I had those middle panels up to get some light. So it's unfortunate I couldn't get all the lights up until I pretty much finished the bulk of the work inside here, but they are up and they're going to help tremendously as I finish out the trim work and the rest of the interior. What's left to do is to trim out the window openings, and I did a video last week showing how I hog those out with a router, so check that out if you're interested. So I've got to trim out the 4 windows, and I've got to trim out the door, and I'll probably do a video on both of those because it's kind of interesting to see how you trim out. You're basically building a box and then face trimming different types of openings. Then I think the last thing I'm going to need to do as far as trim is something on the bottom here, some kind of baseboard trim. And I probably will use more of the scrap from the pine siding and put that down and keep it maybe 3/4 of an inch up off of the concrete. And you'll notice I spaced the OSB wall sheathing up just to keep it off of the concrete. And I'll do the same with the baseboard. And I'll probably just leave enough of a gap so that if I ever want to put a type of flooring product in here, like garage tiles or one of those automotive like a race deck or Swiss Tracks flooring systems, I can slip that in underneath and it'll look nice and neat. So that'll be coming up, some baseboard. And I think that's going to really wrap up the bulk of the work inside of this pole barn. Until I get into things like paint in the future. I definitely still have to do paint on the outside of the building. I'll wait till we get into some warmer, drier weather for that. But we're getting really close to finishing here. And so that's just going to be pretty much it for today's update. At the end here, I'll just mix in some video showing you how I put up the ceiling panels with a drywall lift. That was just an invaluable tool. I'll put a link to that. That was an Amazon purchase. I think that was around $200. Well worth the money, even if I never have to use it again. And these were lightweight panels, that I put up. But even when they're lightweight, it's 4x8. You want to get up there precisely so you have nice tight joints. And with any kind of a sheet product, when you're putting it up on a ceiling, you got to be careful about the way you put in your fasteners so that you keep it flat and you're not creating any waves in it. So the drywall lift was very helpful for that. And then I'll put up some video of me putting up the OSB on the walls. That was pretty simple, really. Just I always start in the middle of walls and work my way towards the corners. That's a good tip, no matter what you're doing. You want to keep your goof ups in the corners, not anywhere out in the middle. So I basically, started in the middle of the walls, leveled, got the first sheet vertical plumb, and then just worked my way outwards. And so I'll put in some video of that as well. I do think I mentioned I used the 1-inch panel staples up on the ceiling. I think I have that stapler somewhere here. Do you want to have that? This is a little mess of tools, and half of them are camouflage colors. So, I've got a couple staplers here. This is a 1-inch crown staple, and you can use this for everything from laminate flooring to trim work. But for thin paneling, my preference really is this very old panel stapler, and this shoots 1/4 inch wide, 1 inch long panel staples. This shoots them almost perfectly flush every time, unlike the crown stapler, which can drive them too deep. And with thin material, you want those staples to sit flush. And I had staples from the 1980s I was still using. They had brown paint on them, so they blend in really nicely up there. You can't really see them from down here. So I used the panel stapler and staples for that. And then I used my siding nailer with 1.5 inch galvanized ring shank nails, basically siding nails, to put this OSB up, just to have something beefy holding that down. Those ring shank nails really lock in nice, and they countersink in about 1/16 of an inch, so they're below the surface, and that works out well. Incidentally, one side benefit to using the OSB on the inside of the walls over interior wall girts is that gives me a lot of shear strength. It adds a lot of shear strength to the walls. And what that means is I don't need to run diagonal braces like I would in a normal pole barn. So combination of 2x4 strength wall girts nailed into the posts, and then the OSB nailed in with siding nails spaced every about 6 or 8 inches. That creates a lot of shear bracing on these walls and has a good benefit. And then the last type of galvanized fastener I used was my 15 gauge brad nailer, either 15 gauge. And I use this to put in pretty much all the trim, to build the boxing around the beams, put up the battens and things like that. I also have an 18 gauge trim nailer. I really don't like the 18 gauge trim brads or nails. They're just too skinny, and they love to just shoot off course and bend and follow the grain and shoot back out of the wood. I found the 15 is just a heck of a lot more predictable and behaves well, and it drives a little bit beefier brad. So that was used for all the trim, and that worked well. So that's going to do it for the update today. Stick around, we'll have some footage of me putting up various parts of the trim and the wall and ceiling materials. Thanks for watching.